Have you ever looked in the mirror and caught your own reflection in a way that felt unfamiliar? As if time had quietly reshaped the face staring back at you? Perhaps you'd notice the fine lines tracing your skin, the subtle shifts in the contours of your face, or the strands of silver woven into your hair. It is not just your appearance that has changed. The world around you has moved forward, relationships have ebbed and flowed, and the body you once trusted now moves with a little more caution, as if it no longer quite belongs to you. Aging, like the steady course of a river, is inevitable, and yet it often feels like an uphill battle, one that we are rarely prepared for. But what if I told you that the real struggle is not against aging itself? That the battle is not against time, but against our resistance to it? In Buddhism, there is a profound truth. Suffering arises not from change itself, but from our refusal to accept it. The Buddha spoke often of impermanence, the understanding that everything in life is in a constant state of transformation. Change is not something to fear. It is not a punishment. It is the very essence of life itself. The more we try to hold on to things that were never meant to stay, the more we create suffering for ourselves. This is where the Buddha's wisdom shines. When we learn to flow with change, rather than fight against it, we find peace. The illusion of holding on. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. How many times have you tried to freeze a moment, to hold on to a fleeting feeling, to resist the inevitable? Maybe it was a moment of happiness, a relationship you never wanted to change, or even a younger version of yourself that you long to revisit. But aging, like all aspects of life, moves with grace. It is not about fighting against time or wishing to reverse it. It is about recognizing that it is part of a much larger, more beautiful process. What if aging was not something to fear, but something to embrace? What if, instead of seeing the passing years as a loss, we saw them as an unfolding, one that brings depth, wisdom, and a richer understanding of life? What if each wrinkle, each gray hair, each transformation was not a sign of fading youth, but a mark of experiences lived, of lessons learned, of wisdom gained? Today, I want to share 5 powerful Buddhist lessons on aging. Lessons that will completely shift the way you perceive this natural process. These truths are not bitter or frightening, as society often portrays aging. Instead, they are liberating. They hold the power to bring peace to a mind that has spent too long resisting time's natural course. When you truly understand them, you will not only make peace with aging, you will celebrate it. Aging teaches us to let go of attachment to the past. It invites us to live fully in the present moment, appreciating the fleeting nature of life. When we stop resisting time, we realize we are not losing ourselves. We are evolving, gaining new layers of meaning, new strengths, new wisdom. Aging is not a destination, it is a journey, one that reveals more of who we truly are. So stay with me as we explore these lessons together. I believe they will offer you a new way to view aging, one that brings not fear, but peace. Because once you understand these truths, the way you perceive the rest of your life might just change. Starting today. Lesson 1. You will be forgotten. Faster than you think. And that's okay. One of the hardest truths to accept as we age is this. You will be forgotten sooner than you think. The career you spent decades building, the home you poured your heart into, the stories you've told, the relationships you've nurtured, all of them will eventually fade from the memory of others. At first, this may seem like a heartbreaking realization, but within this truth lies a profound freedom. We often live with the belief that if we work hard enough, if we love deeply enough, if we leave behind something meaningful, our names will echo through time. We tell ourselves that our efforts will be remembered, that someone will look back and think of who we were. But time moves forward. Our children build lives of their own. Friends get caught up in their own paths. The world, as it always does, keeps turning. Yet this is not something to fear. It is something to accept. Because once we let go of the need to be remembered, we begin to focus on what truly matters. Being fully present in the time we have, living deeply, loving fully, and creating meaning in the moment rather than in some distant legacy. The Buddhist perspective on legacy. In Buddhism, there is a concept called no self, anatta. The idea that we are not fixed, permanent beings. Just as waves rise and fall in the ocean, we too rise and fall. Our lives come and go, leaving behind ripples that merge into the vast, ever-flowing river of existence. The desire to be remembered is an illusion. The idea that our name, our identity, and our achievements will remain forever is a fallacy. But this realization does not diminish the importance of our lives. Instead, it encourages us to fully immerse ourselves in the present moment, to embrace the fleeting nature of existence, to stop striving for permanence and instead focus on being here, now. Because our goal should not be to be remembered, it should be to live fully, to love deeply, and to touch lives in the present moment. A Zen story on impermanence. There is a Zen story that beautifully illustrates this truth. A wise old monk lived in a remote mountain temple, known for his kindness and wisdom. Over the decades, many villagers came seeking his guidance, and he helped them through their struggles. He was in many ways the heart of the community. His wisdom echoed through generations. One day, a young disciple, troubled by the passage of time and the inevitable reality of death, asked the monk, "Master, does it not sadden you that when you pass away, people may forget your name? That the legacy you leave behind may fade into nothingness?" The old monk smiled gently and pointed to the river flowing past the temple. "Tell me," he said, "where is the water that was here yesterday?" The disciple was taken aback. He did not know how to respond. The monk continued, "It has flowed on. It has moved. And yet the river remains. It is always changing, always in motion. Each drop of water passes, but the river itself continues, never stagnant, always flowing." In that moment, the young disciple understood. The lesson was clear. It is not the name we leave behind that matters most, but the ripples of kindness, love, and wisdom we create. Just as the river does not cling to yesterday's water, we should not cling to the illusion of permanence. Instead of worrying about being remembered, we should focus on how we live, how we love, and how we make a difference in the here and now. Your true legacy. A single candle can light 1,000 others without losing its own flame. The kindness, wisdom, and love that you share do not disappear once you are gone. They live on, not in history books, not in statues or names etched in stone, but in the hearts of those you have touched. Think about your own life. Do you remember the name of every teacher who inspired you? Every person who shaped your path? Probably not, but their influence, their kindness, their lessons, they are woven into the fabric of who you are. This is the real legacy, so let go of the need to be remembered. Instead, focus on how you live now. Be present, be kind, be compassionate. Let your actions create ripples of goodness in the lives of others. Because in the end, it is not about how long your name lasts, it is about how deeply you lived, and that is a legacy that truly lasts forever. There is a kind of peace that washes over you when you realize that you do not need to be remembered to have mattered. That your worth is not in how long people speak your name, but in how deeply you lived while you were here. So much of human suffering comes from the fear of fading away, of being forgotten, of not leaving behind something grand enough to withstand the passage of time. But time does not care for names carved in stone. It only moves forward, carrying the essence of what we were in, ways we may never see. Buddhism teaches us that life is like a ripple in a vast ocean. Each of us leaves behind waves, touching shores we will never set foot on. But we do not need to be remembered to make an impact. The love we share, the kindness we offer, the wisdom we impart, all of it continues, moving forward, shaping the world in quiet ways we will never fully understand. The tree does not worry about whether anyone remembers it was once a seed. The river does not concern itself with the name of every drop that has flowed through it. And yet both continue to nourish life, to move forward, to exist in harmony with the universe. But why is this so hard for us to accept? Why do we cling so desperately to the idea of legacy, to the illusion of permanence, to the need to be remembered, the fear of impermanence? We struggle with the idea of impermanence because we fear losing ourselves. The thought that one day we will no longer exist in the minds of others makes us uneasy. It feels as if it erases our time here, as if our existence was just a fleeting moment that will eventually disappear. But this fear is born from a misunderstanding of what it truly means to live. In Buddhism, impermanence, anicca, is not something to fear, it is something to embrace. Because the very thing we fear, change, is what gives life its beauty. If the sun never set, we would never marvel at the stars. If flowers never wilted, we would never cherish their bloom. If people never left, we would never learn the depth of love and connection. Everything is precious precisely because it is temporary. So ask yourself, what if, instead of fearing impermanence, you embraced it? What if you saw it not as something to resist, but as something to honor? What if, instead of trying to leave a mark that lasts forever, you focused on living fully in the moments that are given to you? Releasing the need for a grand legacy. Many people live with the belief that if they achieve enough, if they accomplish something great, if they leave behind something lasting, they will find peace. But history is filled with names that were once spoken with reverence and are now forgotten. Cities have risen and crumbled. Dynasties have ruled and disappeared. Names that were once etched into the hearts of people have faded into dust. But you do not need to be remembered to have mattered. Think about the people who have shaped your life, the small acts of kindness from a stranger, the quiet support of a friend, the wisdom of a grandparent who may no longer be here. You may not remember every word they said. You may not even remember their name, but their presence, their love, their energy, it shaped you. And that is how our impact truly lives on. A legacy is not about having your name written in books. It is about how deeply you lived, how much love you shared, and how many people you touched, even in ways you may never know. It is about leaving the world slightly better than you found it. Not because people will remember you, but because you were here and you gave what you could. The story of the invisible monk. There is a Buddhist story of an old monk who lived in a small village. He spent his life in quiet service, helping the poor, teaching those who wished to learn, offering wisdom without seeking recognition. One day a younger monk asked him, "Master, do you not fear being forgotten? Do you not wish to leave behind something that will last?" The old monk smiled and pointed to the garden. "Do you see these flowers?" he asked. "Every season they bloom, bringing beauty to the world, and then they fade, returning to the earth, making room for new life. They do not cling to their petals, nor do they worry about being remembered. They simply exist, and in doing so, they fulfill their purpose." The younger monk nodded, understanding. The lesson was simple. It is not about leaving behind a name. It is about living in a way that creates beauty while you are here. And when you think about it, isn't that enough? Shifting from seeking recognition to living fully. So much energy is wasted worrying about how we will be remembered, when in truth, the most fulfilling life is one where we stop trying to be remembered and start trying to be present. The greatest moments of joy, of connection, of peace do not come from thinking about the future. They come from being fully here now. Try this. Close your eyes, take a deep breath. Think about the people in your life who have made a difference, not because of their achievements, but because of who they were. Think about the quiet strength of a mother, the warmth of a friend's laughter, the kindness of a stranger who helped you on a difficult day. Do their names matter? Or is it the way they made you feel that stays with you? This is what truly lasts. This is what life is about. So instead of worrying about leaving a legacy, ask yourself, am I present in the moments I have? Am I living in a way that brings peace to myself and to others? Am I giving love freely without worrying about whether I will be remembered for it? Because in the end, we will all be forgotten. But while we are here, we can love, we can give, we can live, and that is enough. Finding peace in the flow of life. Imagine a river. It does not hold on to each drop of water, trying to keep it from moving forward. It does not fear that its journey will end. It simply flows. Sometimes it is calm, sometimes it is rapid. Sometimes it carves deep into the earth, shaping the land around it in ways that will last for centuries. And yet it does not cling to what was. It only moves forward, always part of something greater. This is how we must learn to live, not by holding on, not by fearing the passage of time, but by flowing with it, By understanding that our impact is not measured by how long people remember our names, but by the depth of the love, kindness, and wisdom we leave behind in their hearts. The greatest freedom you will ever experience is the moment you stop needing to be remembered and start focusing on how fully you can live now. Because the truth is, you were never meant to last forever. You were meant to shine while you are here, and that is more than enough. So ask yourself, what if I stopped worrying about being remembered and started focusing on being present? What if I let go of my attachment to legacy and instead focused on living with love, kindness, and wisdom? What if I trusted that my presence, even if it is eventually forgotten, still matters? Because the moment you surrender to the truth that you do not need to be remembered to have mattered, you will experience a kind of peace that cannot be taken away from you. And in that peace, in that quiet acceptance, you will finally understand what was true all along. Your legacy is not your name. It is the love you shared, the kindness you gave, the lives you touched. And that will echo far beyond anything history could ever record. Because in the end, you do not need to last forever. You only need to be fully here, now. There is a great misunderstanding in the way we think about life. We have been conditioned to believe that our purpose is to leave something behind, to create a legacy so grand that we will never be forgotten, that if we are not remembered, then our existence was meaningless. But this belief is an illusion, one that leads to unnecessary suffering. Because the truth is, you do not need to be remembered to have lived a meaningful life. What if, instead of worrying about how long your name will last, you focused on how deeply you can live while you are here? What if, instead of chasing an everlasting legacy, you learned to immerse yourself fully in each passing moment, knowing that the most valuable gift you can give to the world is not your name, it is your presence? Buddhism teaches that clinging to the idea of permanence is what creates suffering. Everything is impermanent. People change, seasons change, even the greatest civilizations, the most powerful leaders, the most celebrated names in history, all of them eventually fade. But that does not make their existence meaningless, because meaning is not found in how long something lasts. It is found in how deeply it was experienced. The illusion of immortality. There is a part of us that wants to last forever, a part that fears being forgotten, that dreads the thought that one day our name will no longer be spoken. But the truth is, the desire to be remembered is just another form of attachment to an identity, attachment to a self that does not truly exist. The Buddha taught that there is no fixed, permanent self, only a collection of ever-changing experiences, thoughts, and emotions. Who you were 10 years ago is not the same as who you are today. The body you have now is not the same as the one you had as a child. Even your thoughts, your beliefs, your desires, they are constantly shifting. So if we ourselves are not permanent, why do we cling so desperately to the idea of leaving something behind? A candle does not worry about whether people will remember its flame. It simply shines while it is here, offering warmth, offering light. And when it goes out, it does not cling to the idea of lasting forever. It simply returns to the universe, its energy becoming part of something greater. This is how we must learn to live, not in fear of being forgotten, but in the fullness of being here, now. The true meaning of legacy. What if legacy is not about being remembered, but about how much love you put into the world while you were here? What if your real impact is not in the history books, not in monuments or statues, but in the small, quiet moments where you made a difference in someone's life? Think about the people who have shaped you, not the famous figures, not the historical icons, but the ones who truly touched your heart. The teacher who believed in you, the friend who was there for you in a difficult time, the stranger whose kindness stayed with you long after they were gone. Do you remember all of their names? Perhaps not, but their presence, their kindness, their love, it stayed with you. And in that way, they are still here, still alive in the ripples they created. This is the real legacy, not being remembered, but being felt, not leaving behind a name, but leaving behind kindness. The Buddhist parable of the sand mandala. Buddhist monks in Tibet often create elaborate, breathtaking sand mandalas, intricate designs made of colored sand, requiring days, sometimes weeks, of meticulous effort. But once the mandala is complete, the monks do something unexpected. They destroy it. With a single sweep of the hand, the entire creation is wiped away, the sand returned to the earth. Why? Because they understand the fundamental truth of impermanence. Nothing lasts, and that is exactly why it is beautiful. The mandala was never meant to be permanent. It was never meant to be held on to. Its purpose was to be fully experienced in the moment, to be appreciated while it was here. And so it is with our lives. We are not here to leave behind something permanent. We are here to live, to love, to create, and then to let go. Because true peace is found not in clinging, but in embracing the fleeting beauty of existence, shifting from clinging to presence. So how do we free ourselves from the fear of being forgotten? How do we move from attachment to legacy to living fully in the present? Let go of the need for recognition. Ask yourself, do I need to be remembered? Have you ever truly looked into the mirror, not just a passing glance, but a moment where time seems to pause? Have you ever stared at your own reflection and felt the weight of something unfamiliar, as though the person looking back isn't quite the same as the one you remember? Maybe you notice the fine lines forming at the edges of your eyes, the gentle shift in the contours of your face, or the silver strands threading through your hair. It's not just your appearance that has changed, but the world around you. Life seems to move at a different rhythm now. The people you once knew drift in and out of your days like the tide, and even your own body, once so effortless in its movements, now hesitates, reminding you that time is always at work. Aging, much like the steady flow of a river, is inevitable. And yet so many of us fight against it, as though we could somehow hold back the current. But what if I told you that the real struggle isn't with aging itself? The real struggle is in our resistance to it. We suffer not because time moves forward, but because we try to hold on to something that was never meant to remain unchanged. In Buddhist teachings, there is a profound understanding that suffering arises from attachment, from clinging too tightly to what is fleeting. The Buddha often spoke of impermanence, the truth that everything in life is constantly shifting, transforming, and evolving. This change is not something to fear. It is not a punishment. It is, in fact, the very essence of existence. When we desperately try to freeze time, to grip onto the past with white-knuckled hands, we find ourselves trapped in an endless cycle of dissatisfaction. But when we learn to move with the natural rhythm of life rather than against it, we step into something far more powerful: peace. Pause for a moment and reflect on your own life. How many times have you wished you could hold on to a moment just a little longer? How often have you longed to return to a version of yourself that no longer exists? Perhaps it was the energy of youth, the effortless beauty, or the way the world once seemed so full of possibility. But just as a river does not stop to hold on to a single drop of water, life does not pause for us. It keeps flowing, and it is in this movement that we find our true freedom. What if, instead of dreading the passage of time, we learn to embrace it? What if each wrinkle was not a mark of loss, but a symbol of wisdom? What if each silver hair was not a reminder of what has faded, but of experiences lived and lessons learned? Aging is not an enemy to be fought, but a path to be walked with grace. And yet, there is a truth that is difficult for many to accept. You will be forgotten sooner than you think. It is a hard reality to face, but an important one. The things we pour our energy into, the careers we build, the homes we shape, the friendships we cherish, will in time fade from the memory of others. The names we hold dear, the stories we tell, and the legacies we believe we leave behind will all eventually be replaced by new ones. At first, this thought may seem devastating. We spend so much of our lives trying to make a mark, trying to be significant, trying to ensure that we are remembered. We believe that if we work hard enough, love deeply enough, and achieve greatly enough, our existence will echo through time. But the truth is, life moves forward. Children grow busy with their own lives, friendships evolve, and the world continues, just as it always has. But within this reality lies an extraordinary kind of liberation. In Buddhism, this truth is not something to mourn, but something to embrace. The self, as we know it, is an illusion. We are not fixed, unchanging beings. Just as waves rise and fall in the ocean, so too do we. Our existence is not meant to be permanent. This is not a loss, but a gift. Imagine a river flowing past you. Each drop of water that passes will never return in the same form, and yet the river remains. It is always in motion, always changing, always alive. A wise monk once pointed to a river and asked his disciple, "Where is the water that was here yesterday?" The disciple looked at the moving stream, unable to answer. The monk then said, "It has flowed on, yet the river still exists. It is not stagnant, but ever-changing." And so it is with us. It is not our name, our status, or our legacy that defines us, but the ripples we create in the lives of others. A single candle can light 1,000 others without losing its flame. The kindness you offer, the wisdom you share, and the love you give, these things do not disappear when you do. They live on, not in the form of your name in history books, but in the hearts of those you have touched. Think about the people who have shaped your life. Do you remember the name of every teacher who guided you? Every stranger who showed you kindness? Every person who made a difference in your journey? Perhaps not, but their influence remains. Their love, their generosity, their wisdom. These are the things that endure. And so the greatest legacy we can leave behind is not one of recognition, but one of presence. Let go of the need to be remembered. The desire for immortality through memory is rooted in fear. The fear that our lives will not have mattered, that we will fade into nothingness. But when we free ourselves from this fear, we begin to live differently. Instead of chasing after a name that will linger beyond us, we focus on being truly alive in this moment. We immerse ourselves in the richness of now, in the depth of our relationships, in the joy of simple moments. Aging, then, is not a battle against time, but an unfolding into something deeper. It is an invitation to let go of what was and to embrace what is. When we stop grasping at youth, when we stop fearing the inevitable, we find something remarkable waiting for us: peace. And so, the question is not whether you will be remembered. The question is, how will you live right now? What impact will you have in this very moment? What kindness will you share? What wisdom will you pass on? What love will you give freely, without expectation? This is where true meaning is found, not in the permanence of a name, but in the fleeting yet profound ways we touch the lives of those around us. Because in the end, the river keeps flowing, and the ripples we create will continue long after we are gone. Once upon a time, you could run without thinking, move with ease, and trust your body to carry you wherever you wished. Stairs were nothing more than a minor inconvenience, a climb that never left you breathless. But now you feel it, the stiffness in your joints, the heaviness in your limbs, the slight hesitation in each movement. Perhaps you have caught yourself avoiding things that once felt effortless, pausing before rising from a chair, rubbing your knees absent-mindedly after a long walk, or noticing the way your hands tremble ever so slightly when reaching for a cup. It's a strange feeling, isn't it? As though your body, once your most trusted ally, has begun betraying you. There is a frustration that comes with this realization, a quiet grief for the strength and energy that once felt infinite. You may ask yourself, what happened to the body I used to know? The one that could run, climb, dance, and carry the weight of the world without protest? It is easy to feel a sense of loss, to mourn the vitality that once pulsed through your veins. But what if I told you that this too is an illusion? That the problem is not aging itself, but the way we view it. The Buddha teaches that suffering arises from attachment, the clinging to things that are meant to change. We suffer not because we age, but because we resist it, holding on to a past version of ourselves as if it were something we could possess forever. But just as autumn leaves must fall and rivers must flow, so too must the body change. This is not a punishment. It is simply the way of life. Think about how much your body has done for you. From the moment you took your first breath, it has carried you through every experience, every hardship, every moment of joy and sorrow. It has been your most loyal companion, growing with you, adapting to your needs, enduring sickness, healing wounds, and carrying the weight of your emotions. Your body has never abandoned you, not once. So why now do we turn against it? Aging is not a betrayal, it is a transformation. And the moment we stop seeing our bodies as something to fight against, we can begin to treat them with the kindness and respect they deserve. Imagine if, instead of frustration, you responded to your aching joints with gratitude. Imagine if, instead of mourning the loss of youth, you celebrated the fact that your body has carried you through decades of life. There is a Zen story about an aging monk who once carried heavy buckets of water up the mountain with ease. But as the years passed, his arms grew weaker, his steps slower, and the weight of the buckets felt heavier than before. Frustrated by his declining strength, he went to his master and asked, "Why does my body fail me? It once obeyed every command, but now it resists me." The master smiled and handed him a cracked clay pot. "This pot once held water without effort," he said. "Now it leaks. Does that make it useless?" The monk examined the pot. "No," he said slowly. "It still holds some water." "And does it not still serve a purpose?" the master asked. The monk hesitated before answering. "The water that escapes nourishes the earth." The master nodded. "The pot is not as it once was, but it is still of value. So too is your body. It has changed, but it is still of use." In that moment, the monk understood. His body was not failing him. It was simply moving into a new phase of life, one with a different kind of purpose. Your body, too, is not something to be resented. It is something to be befriended. Rather than seeing aging as the slow decay of what once was, it can be seen as an invitation to live differently, to move with care, to nourish yourself, to listen more deeply to what your body needs. The truth is, aging does not take away as much as we fear. It may slow you down, but it offers something in return, a deeper awareness of life, a richer appreciation for the simple things, a chance to shift from doing to being. The body of youth may be quick and strong, but the body of age holds wisdom in its bones. Think of the elders who inspire you. Do you admire them because they look young or because they radiate something deeper? There is a kind of beauty that comes with age, a beauty not found in smooth skin or quick steps, but in the way someone carries themselves, with grace, with peace, with understanding. The cracked pot may not be able to hold as much water as before, but what spills from it nurtures the ground, giving life in a new way. And so it is with you. The way you move through the world now may be different, but it is no less meaningful. So be kind to your body. Thank it for all it has done. Move gently. Rest when you need to. Feed it well. Treat it not as an enemy, but as the dearest of friends. For it is not working against you. It is simply walking alongside you in a new way. And when you begin to see your body in this light, something remarkable happens. The fear of aging starts to fade. The resentment softens. And in its place, there is something else: acceptance. There is no need to fight against time. Let your body change. Let it move differently. Let it slow down. And in that slowness, you may just find something you have been searching for all along: peace. There is a quiet heartbreak that comes with time, one that many do not speak of until they have lived long enough to understand it fully. It is the slow, inevitable drifting of people from your life. At first, it happens so subtly that you barely notice. A friend stops calling as often. A loved one who once seemed inseparable becomes a distant memory. The people who once filled your days with laughter and warmth start to fade away, as though carried off by an invisible tide. Perhaps you have felt it already, the silence that lingers where someone's voice used to be, the absence of familiar footsteps, the unreturned calls and unanswered messages. It feels unnatural, even cruel, to lose connection with those who once meant everything. And so the question lingers in the heart: why? Why do people leave? You may search for answers, replaying conversations, wondering if you did something wrong. You may ask yourself if you should have tried harder, reached out more, held on tighter. But the truth, as difficult as it may be to accept, is that this is simply the nature of life. Nothing, not even the most cherished of relationships, remains unchanged. In Buddhist philosophy, impermanence is at the heart of all things. Just as the seasons shift, just as rivers flow, and the wind moves through the trees, so too do people move in and out of our lives. Some walk beside us for many years, while others are with us only for a fleeting moment. But in the end, all must keep moving. There is a story of a young monk who, troubled by the loss of friendships, sought wisdom from his master. "Why do people leave us when we love them?" he asked. The master led him to a quiet river and pointed at the flowing water. "Do you see how the river moves?" he asked. The monk nodded, watching as the current carried the water downstream. "Each drop of water that passes us will never return in the same way," the master continued. "Some drops travel together for a while, dancing side by side, while others separate quickly, carried away by the current. None of them remain in place. They all move forward as they must." The young monk stared at the river, and for the first time he understood. It was not a matter of fault or failure. It was simply the way of things. So it is with the people in our lives. Some stay with us for years, others for just a season. And yet their presence, no matter how brief, has meaning. They shape us, leave their mark on our hearts, and then, as is natural, they move on. It is human nature to cling, to try to hold on to what was, to resist the inevitable flow of life. But suffering arises when we resist what is meant to change, when we mourn not just the loss of a person, but the loss of how things used to be. We trap ourselves in a cycle of pain. Yet there is another way. Instead of mourning those who have drifted away, we can cherish those who remain. Instead of grasping at the past, we can open our hearts to the new connections life still has to offer. Have you ever reunited with an old friend after years apart, only to find that no time seemed to have passed at all? That moment, that unshaken bond, is proof that love does not disappear. It may change form, it may become quieter, but it does not vanish. And even if a friendship fades completely, it does not mean it was without purpose. Think of the people who have shaped you, even those no longer in your life. A teacher who once inspired you, a friend who supported you in a difficult time, a stranger whose kindness stayed with you. Do you think of them with resentment or with gratitude? Every relationship we have, no matter how short-lived, plays a role in our journey. Some people are with us for the long road ahead. Others are only meant to walk with us for a little while, and that is okay. But perhaps the hardest truth of all is that, in the end, you too will drift away from someone's life. One day you will be the person who is no longer called as often, who is no longer at the center of someone's world. Not because you are unworthy, not because you were forgotten, but simply because time moves forward. And so, what can we do? We can learn to let go with grace, to release the past without bitterness, to cherish the moments we have with people while they are here, and to trust that if they must leave, it is not a loss. It is simply the way of life. The key to peace is in understanding that love is not ownership. We do not possess people. We do not control whether they stay or go. All we can do is love them while they are with us and bless them when they move on. There is no need to fear the shifting of relationships. Just as trees do not resist the changing of their leaves, just as the ocean does not cling to a single wave, we too must learn to embrace the ebb and flow of life. And when you do, something beautiful happens. The pain of loss begins to soften, the fear of being alone fades, and in its place there is something new, a quiet knowing that love, in its truest form, is never truly lost. It simply changes shape. There comes a moment in every life when you catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror, and for the briefest second, you don't recognize the person staring back. The face is familiar, yet different, softer in some places, sharper in others. The hair has begun to lose its color, the skin has softened, the hands have become more delicate with time. And then a question surfaces in the quiet of your mind. What happened to the person I used to be? It is in that moment that many feel the first true weight of aging, not just as a concept, but as a reality. The world, it seems, is always urging us to resist this change. Advertisements whisper promises of youth, of wrinkle-free skin, of hair untouched by gray. They tell us to erase the signs of time, to defy aging, to chase after the illusion of permanence. Society often treats aging as a slow vanishing, as though each passing year takes something away from us. But what if that was never true? What if aging is not something to be feared, but something to be embraced? What if every line on your face, every silver strand of hair, is not a sign of loss, but of a life well lived? In Buddhist teachings, true beauty is not found in flawless skin or in the youthful body. It is found in wisdom, in presence, in kindness. The beauty that lasts is not the kind that fades with time, but the kind that deepens with it. There is a Zen story of an elderly woman who once sought the wisdom of a revered master. She sat before him and sighed, gazing at her reflection in the still water of a pond. "I look at myself, and I do not see the beauty I once had. My face is lined, my hair is silver, my body is no longer the same. I feel invisible, as though the world no longer sees me." The master smiled and led her into the garden, where he pointed to a cherry blossom tree in full bloom. "Do you see this tree?" he asked. "It is beautiful, is it not?" The woman nodded. The soft petals, the gentle pink hue, they were undeniably lovely. Then the master took her to an ancient pine tree nearby. Its bark was worn and weathered, its branches twisted with age. It was no longer delicate, no longer youthful. "And this?" the master asked. The woman hesitated. "It is different," she said slowly. "But there is something dignified about it, something strong." The master nodded. "A child may see only the beauty of the cherry blossom, but in time one learns to see the beauty of the pine, its strength, its resilience, the way it has stood through the storms of many seasons. Your beauty has not faded, it has transformed. And so it is with us. The beauty of youth is soft, fleeting, like the cherry blossom in spring. But the beauty of age is different. It is the beauty of wisdom, of strength, of a presence that has weathered many seasons and still stands tall." Think for a moment about the elders in your life, the ones who have left a mark on your heart. Were they beautiful because they looked young? Or was their beauty found in the way they carried themselves, in the wisdom in their eyes, in the patience of their voice? There is a quiet, radiant kind of beauty that only comes with age. The beauty of knowing who you are, of having lived through joys and sorrows and still standing with grace. This beauty cannot be found in creams or dyes, or in clinging to the past. It is found in the way you move through the world. Imagine if we could see aging not as something to fight, but as something to honor. Imagine if we viewed every wrinkle as a story, every gray hair as a lesson learned. Imagine if we wore our years not as a burden, but as a crown. Because the truth is, the older we grow, the more we understand what truly matters. We begin to see that real beauty is not in the smoothness of skin, but in the depth of one's heart. Not in how young we look, but in how fully we have lived. So the next time you look in the mirror and feel tempted to mourn what has changed, pause, look deeper. See the life that has shaped you, the love you have given, the wisdom you now carry. Your beauty is not behind you. It is within you, growing richer with every passing year. Aging is not a battle to be fought. It is a journey to be embraced. And when we finally let go of the illusion that youth is the only kind of beauty, we open ourselves to something far greater, a beauty that does not fade, but only deepens with time. As the years pass, one truth becomes clear. Loss is inevitable. The people we love will not be here forever. One by one they will leave, and we will remain, left to carry their absence in our hearts. No matter how much we prepare ourselves for this, the moment loss arrives, it shakes us to our core. There is no easy way to accept it, no simple way to move forward. Grief is not something we simply get over. It does not follow a set timeline, nor does it fade just because the world expects us to move on. Instead, grief becomes a part of us. It lingers in the quiet moments, in the familiar songs that remind us of someone, in the empty spaces where laughter once filled the air. Yet Buddhism offers a truth that softens the sharp edges of loss. Love does not die. The people we have lost do not vanish completely. They live on, not in their physical form, but in the love they shared, in the lessons they left behind, in the small ways they shaped our lives. There is a story of a woman named Kisa Gotami whose grief consumed her. When her young child passed away, she refused to accept it. In her despair, she carried the lifeless body from house to house, begging for someone to bring her child back to life. No one could give her what she sought, until finally she reached the Buddha. "Please, Master," she pleaded, "give me medicine that will bring my child back." The Buddha looked at her with great compassion and said, "Bring me a mustard seed from a home that has never known death." Hopeful, Kisa Gotami set out on her search. She knocked on door after door, asking for a mustard seed from a house untouched by loss. But with each visit, she heard the same response. "We too have lost someone, a parent, a child, a friend." Every household she visited had known grief. By the end of her search, she understood. Death was not a tragedy unique to her. It was a part of life, woven into the fabric of existence itself. She returned to the Buddha, and instead of asking for medicine, she asked for wisdom. And in that wisdom, she found a kind of peace. We too must come to understand what Kisa Gotami learned. Loss is not something that happens to us alone. It is something that connects all of humanity. Every person you meet carries a grief you cannot see. Every person has loved and lost. And while this truth is painful, it is also beautiful, because it means we are not alone in our sorrow. Think for a moment about the people you have lost. A parent whose laughter still echoes in your memory. A friend whose words of wisdom still guide you. A partner whose love still shapes the way you love others. Though they are no longer here, do they not still live on in some way? Perhaps you hear their voice when you need reassurance. Perhaps you find yourself saying the very things they once said to you. Perhaps you still make their favorite dish, still visit the places they loved, still carry their presence in the smallest of ways. This is the truth that Buddhism teaches us. Love does not disappear when the body does. It lingers, it flows through us, it remains in the way we live our lives. And so, grief is not a burden to be cast aside. It is a reflection of the love we had, the depth of the bonds we shared. The more we have loved, the more we grieve. But that grief is not something to fear. It is a testament to the beauty of what once was. Have you ever heard a song that instantly transported you to a moment in time? A scent that brought back a long-buried memory? In those moments, for just a second, the past feels alive again. That is how love persists. It moves through us in unseen ways,